everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be diving deep into the world of vertical farming.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, it should be a good one. We've got a ton of sources to go through, academic papers,
Right.
news articles. We even have some curriculum plans.
Wow, a full spectrum.
Yeah, like kind of a 360-degree view of this whole field that's really growing.
Yeah, it's incredible to see vertical farming really. It's at this intersection of so many issues that we're facing right now. Food security and sustainability, rapid urbanization.
Oh, for sure.
And even space exploration.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we want to do today is go beyond the buzzwords of vertical farming and really break it down. What is it? Why is it gaining so much attention?
Right.
And what is its potential impact like here on Earth? And as you said, even in space.
Yeah.
And a great place to start is something that I'm sure a lot of listeners have encountered at some point.
Okay.
Which is the idea of food deserts.
Absolutely. I mean, food deserts represent a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Particularly for marginalized communities.
Yeah.
And, they impact not just access to fresh, affordable food, but also really the overall health and well-being.
Totally. And one of our sources kind of paints a picture of what this looks like here in Chicago.
Yeah.
So imagine living in a neighborhood where your closest option to get groceries is a convenience store or a fast food joint.
Yeah.
And that's the reality for a lot of people.
It is. And the numbers really back that up. This curriculum plan that we have actually points out that residents in some Black majority areas in Chicago have to travel twice as far to reach a grocery store.
Oh, wow.
Compared to residents in white majority blocks.
That's a pretty shocking disparity.
Yeah.
And it makes you think okay, so how are these things connected to bigger issues, It's not just a random coincidence that these food deserts exist, right?
Exactly. And this is where understanding the historical context becomes so crucial.
Yeah.
Our sources really highlight the legacy of redlining.
Yeah.
And not just redlining in housing, as many people think of it, but also in how supermarkets choose where to locate.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying that discriminatory practices from decades ago are still affecting access to fresh food today?
Exactly.
Wow. I never really thought about redlining in that context.
It's a lesser discussed aspect of redlining, but it's incredibly impactful. What happened was, during the 20th century, many of the big supermarket chains were much less likely to open stores in low-income and predominantly minority neighborhoods.
Oh, wow.
So this essentially created this phenomenon called supermarket redlining.
Wow.
And as you can imagine, this just compounded those challenges of food access that already existed for those communities.
Wow. So that's a direct line from those policies to those food deserts that we see today.
Exactly.
So it really underscores that need to find solutions. And this is where urban agriculture comes in, right?
Precisely.
Okay.
So urban agriculture, in a nutshell, is about growing food within cities. And as the global population is increasingly moving towards urban centers, our sources say that almost 70% of the world's population will be living in cities by 2050.
That's a crazy amount of people.
It is.
To feed in these urban areas, so traditional agriculture just isn't going to cut it.
Yeah.
So that's where vertical farming really steps onto the stage.
Exactly. Vertical farming is a specific type of urban agriculture that really leverages vertical space.
Okay.
So think layers upon layers of plant troughs. It can range from these smaller setups that you might find in homes all the way to large-scale commercial operations housed in multi-story buildings.
Oh, wow.
We even have sources that mention using abandoned buildings.
Oh, that's cool.
Or even shipping containers.
Repurposing those old structures for growing food. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, how do they actually grow plants without soil?
Right.
That's where the science gets a little bit mind-bending.
It does. So vertical farming often relies on two main methods.
Okay.
Hydroponics and aeroponics. So in hydroponics, you're essentially growing plants in a nutrient-rich water solution. Aeroponics takes us a step further.
Okay.
It suspends the plant roots in the air and mists them with the nutrient solution.
Whoa, so instead of roots digging down, they're just hanging out.
Right.
Getting sprayed with nutrients.
Exactly.
That's wild. It's interesting. We often see this tech as this new thing.
Yeah.
But it actually has a history longer than a lot of people realize.
That's right. The roots of aeroponics actually go back to NASA.
Oh, wow.
They developed the technique for space exploration.
Wow. So we're seeing that research from space used to benefit us back here.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And speaking of science, even in these really high-tech setups, plants still need photosynthesis to survive. right?
They do.
Could you give us like a quick photosynthesis 101 without getting too technical?
So photosynthesis is the process where plants use sunlight, carbon dioxide from the air, and water to produce their own food. Essentially, they're converting light energy into chemical energy.
Gotcha.
So whether it's a field, a greenhouse, or a vertical farm.
Right.
This fundamental process remains the same.
So even with all this technology, we can't escape the basic laws of nature.
Exactly.
It seems like replicating the right conditions for photosynthesis indoors must be pretty challenging.
It is. Creating that perfect balance of light CO2 levels and water, all within this controlled environment, is definitely one of the keys to vertical farming.
Right. And we were talking about NASA earlier, and that connection to space runs even deeper in the world of vertical farming.
It does.
We were talking about food deserts, and now we're talking about space.
Yeah, right.
But there is a logical thread that connects these two.
Absolutely. So when you think about the challenges of growing food in space, limited resources, extreme conditions, it really forces you to think outside the box and innovate. Like, what would be the ideal plant to thrive in such a harsh environment?
That's a good question. Let me think. If I was designing the perfect space plant, it would have to be something compact to save space.
Right.
And it would need to grow really quickly and efficiently with limited resources.
You're on the right track.
Okay.
So the perfect space plant would be small. It would have what's called a high harvest index.
Okay.
Meaning a large portion of the plant is edible.
Right.
And ideally, it would have a short life cycle so you could have continuous cropping.
Wow. So scientists are essentially designing plants specifically for space?
They are.
Are they using like genetic engineering to create these super efficient space crops?
Yes, genetic engineering and gene editing techniques allow scientists to modify plant traits to suit these specific needs.
Wow.
So, for example, they can enhance tolerance to radiation.
Oh, wow.
Encourage compact growth, or even boost the plant's nutritional content.
So these innovations that are being developed for space agriculture could revolutionize how we approach vertical farming back here on Earth.
Absolutely. We could see these advancements leading to more efficient and sustainable food production.
Right.
You know, addressing those food desert challenges that we talked about earlier.
Totally. Imagine like fresh, locally grown produce. Available year-round, even in urban environments.
Exactly.
That sounds amazing. It sounds almost too good to be true.
Right.
So I imagine there must be some downsides as well.
Of course.
Can't be all sunshine and roses.
Yeah.
What are some of the limitations or challenges?
Yeah, you're right. It's essential to consider the full picture.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest hurdles for vertical farming is that high initial cost.
Right.
You know, setting up and running these systems requires significant investment in technology and infrastructure.
Makes sense.
Additionally, that reliance on artificial lighting and climate control really raises concerns about energy consumption and its impact on sustainability.
That's a good point. And what about the impact on traditional agriculture and farmers?
Could this lead to job displacement in rural areas?
It's a valid concern. There's definitely potential for job displacement as technology takes over some tasks currently performed by humans.
Right.
But, you know, it's also worth noting that vertical farming could create new opportunities in areas like urban planning, engineering, and technology development.
Totally. So there's a lot of different factors at play. Potential benefits and challenges to think about.
Absolutely.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's shift gears and dive into this crazy world of plants as biofactories in space.
Whoa. Hold on a second.
All right.
I think we have enough to unpack on that front for one more segment.
Right.
Why do you say we save the deep dive into plant farming for part 2?
You're the expert. I'm always up for more exploration.
Right.
So we'll leave our listeners with that cliffhanger and promise them an even more exciting dive into the possibilities of plant power in the next segment.
Looking forward to.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Last time we were talking all about vertical farming.
That's right.
Really planting those seeds of knowledge.
I like that.
You know, exploring its potential to tackle food deserts.
Right.
Really transforming how we think about urban agriculture.
Yeah.
And we even started venturing into space farming.
Yes, we did.
Which is super exciting.
We were just about to delve into those specifics.
Right.
Of what makes growing plants in space so different from what we're used to here on Earth.
Exactly. I'm ready to blast off and explore those challenges.
Buckle up.
Okay.
Because it's not as simple as just like sticking a tomato plant on a rocket and hoping for the best.
Oh, I imagined it wasn't.
Yeah, one of the most significant hurdles is that extreme environment.
Okay.
We really take for granted Earth's relatively stable temperatures and our protection from harmful radiation.
That's true. So it's not just about the lack of gravity.
Right.
Although I'm sure that plays a role too.
It does.
What are some of those specific environmental challenges that plants face out there?
So imagine trying to grow a salad on the moon or on Mars.
Okay.
Without a thick atmosphere like Earth's.
Right.
You're dealing with wild temperature swings.
Oh, wow.
Scorching hot days, freezing nights, and then constant bombardment from solar radiation.
That sounds pretty rough for a delicate little seedling.
It is.
So how do scientists plan to, shield these cosmic crops from those harsh conditions?
So one solution is to create these controlled environments within enclosed habitats. Our sources mention things like underground growth chambers as a possibility.
Oh, wow.
Where temperatures can be regulated and artificial lighting can mimic the sun's rays.
So like a little mini biodome.
Exactly.
That's so cool. And speaking of light,
yes,
we touched on photosynthesis a bit earlier. It's not just about having enough light.
Right.
It's about having the right kind of light, too.
Exactly. Plants have evolved over millions of years. They're fine-tuned to that full spectrum of sunlight.
Right.
So replicating that with LEDs, while possible, presents its own challenges. Getting those wavelengths and the intensity just right is crucial.
Gotcha.
For healthy plant growth.
So creating the perfect artificial sun for these space plants is a pretty complex task.
It is.
And we haven't even touched on the radiation issue yet.
Right.
Can plants even survive prolonged exposure to radiation out in space?
Some plants are naturally more resilient than others.
Okay.
But scientists are exploring ways to boost those defenses even further. One approach is to really focus on breeding or genetically engineering plants.
Okay.
With higher levels of antioxidants.
Wait, antioxidants like the things in blueberries and green tea that are good for us?
Those compounds act like tiny shields.
Okay.
Protecting cells from damage, including that caused by radiation.
So we're giving those space crops an extra dose of antioxidants to help them survive.
Exactly. It's like a space superfood.
That's awesome. It's interesting how these solutions for space often mirror what we need here on Earth.
Right.
We're always looking for ways to fortify our food with nutrients.
Exactly.
Turns out those same benefits apply to cosmic cuisine.
That's right.
Let's talk about another challenge, which is space, or rather the lack of it.
Yeah.
It's not like astronauts are going to have these sprawling fields to cultivate their space veggies.
Absolutely. And this is where the concept of that ideal space plant becomes really important.
Okay.
It goes beyond just picking the right species.
Right.
Scientists are looking at ways to optimize the shape and structure of plants for maximum efficiency in these confined spaces.
So we're not just talking about what plants we take to space,
right,
but how we can train them to thrive.
Exactly. It's like sending them to space boot camp.
I love it. So we're sculpting these space plants into these compact, efficient food-producing machines.
Think of it like this. Imagine plants with shorter stems to conserve energy and resources. Denser foliage that's just packed with nutrients.
Right.
And compact root systems that are adapted to smaller growing areas.
So every inch matters.
Every inch matters when you're farming in a space capsule or a lunar habitat.
That's wild. So are scientists relying solely on genetic engineering?
It's a powerful tool, but it's not the only one.
Okay.
Scientists are also experimenting with techniques that have been used in traditional agriculture for centuries, like carefully controlled pruning and training methods.
So it's combining that ancient wisdom with cutting-edge technology.
Exactly.
Earlier, we talked about hydroponics and aeroponics as those go-to methods for soilless growing.
Right.
But I notice our sources go into a lot more detail about the various types of hydroponic systems.
You're right. There are actually 6 main types of hydroponic systems, each with their pros and cons.
Okay.
They range from simple passive setups that rely on capillary action to more complex systems with pumps and circulating nutrient solutions.
So what goes into choosing the right system for a space mission?
That's where the expertise of botanists and engineers really comes in.
Okay.
They have to consider everything from water and nutrient usage to potential issues with clogging or system failures.
Right, because if something breaks, you can't just go to the store.
Exactly. Reliability and efficiency are paramount.
Yeah.
When you're miles away from a hardware store.
Absolutely. It sounds like it takes a lot of planning and testing.
It does.
To make sure these space farms are self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Are there any real-world experiments happening?
Yes.
That are paving the way for future space agriculture?
Absolutely. The International Space Station has really served as this valuable testing ground.
Okay.
Allowing astronauts to experiment with growing all sorts of crops.
What have they grown?
They've managed to successfully cultivate lettuce,
cool,
radishes,
wow,
even flowering plants like zinnias.
Space zinnias. That's awesome. I guess even astronauts need a touch of beauty.
They do.
To brighten up their environment.
Absolutely. But beyond the ISS, there are also Earth-based projects.
Okay.
That are simulating these extraterrestrial challenges.
Oh, cool. So what are they called?
These are called ground analogs.
Ground analogs.
They're environments here on Earth that mimic
the
conditions of space as closely as possible.
Gotcha.
These analogs allow for controlled experiments and troubleshooting before sending anything up to the real deal.
Right. It's probably a lot cheaper to try it out here first.
Definitely.
There's one ground analog that I read about that was really cool.
Okay.
It's the Eden IS project in Antarctica.
Ah, yes, that's a fantastic example.
I mean, what better place to test the resilience of these space farming techniques than one of the most extreme environments on our planet?
It's like a real-life Martian training ground.
That's so cool.
What?
What are researchers learning from that project?
It's a treasure trove of knowledge. Yeah. They're experimenting with various growing techniques, closed-loop resource recycling systems.
Wow.
And they're even studying how the presence of plants impacts the mental well-being of the crew.
Oh, that's interesting.
In this isolated setting.
So something as simple as a plant can really affect human psychology.
It can, especially in these confined and challenging environments.
But let's get back to the food.
Okay.
What kind of yields are they seeing in those Antarctic greenhouses?
Yeah.
Can they actually produce enough to sustain a crew?
That's the ultimate goal.
Right.
And the Eden IS project has shown some really promising results.
Okay.
They've demonstrated that it is possible to grow a diverse range of crops in these extreme conditions.
Wow.
But scaling up production to fully sustain a crew on a long-duration mission, that's still a work in progress.
So it's not just about making plants grow in space. It's about making them grow efficiently enough to actually provide food. What are some of the things they're working on?
It all comes down to creating this self-sustaining ecosystem.
Okay.
We're talking about bioregenerative life support systems where plants not only provide food, but they also play a vital role in recycling waste products.
Wow.
Purifying air and water.
So like building a mini Earth within a spaceship.
Exactly.
So all those sci-fi movies about colonizing other planets don't seem so far-fetched now.
That's right. The research being done in space agriculture is truly pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
And the best part is these advancements could inspire new ways of thinking about sustainability and resource management back here on Earth.
It's amazing how exploring those challenges of space leads to solutions for problems we have here at home.
Absolutely.
And it seems like everything we've talked about so far leads us right back to that amazing potential of plants as biofactories.
You're right. Remember that cliffhanger we left our listeners with last time?
Oh, yeah.
Well, now it's time to delve into that mind-blowing world of plant farming.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Get ready to have your mind blown.
Okay.
As we uncover how plants can be transformed into these mini factories.
Okay.
Producing everything from medicines to biofuels.
It sounds like we're about to enter the realm of science fiction.
It does.
But it's all based on real science.
Real science happening right now.
Lead the way. I'm eager to learn more.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We've covered a ton of ground today talking about vertical farming.
We have?
From tackling those food deserts to cultivating crops in those crazy environments of space.
Absolutely.
And now it's time to, as promised, dive into this fascinating world of plant farming.
Plant farming, it really captures the imagination.
It does.
This idea of using plants as biofactories to create all these valuable compounds.
Right. And it might sound futuristic, but it's really rooted in centuries of human practice.
That's true. We've been harnessing the power of plants for medicinal purposes for ages. Yeah, like aspirin coming from willow bark.
Exactly.
Or even that heart medication digitalis.
Right.
The foxglove plant.
Those are great examples. But plant farming takes that concept to a whole new level.
Okay.
Instead of just extracting compounds from plants, we're using these advanced techniques like genetic engineering to transform them into these tiny factories.
Oh, wow.
Capable of producing a vast range of substances.
So we're like hacking plant biology?
Kinda.
To make medicines, vaccines, biofuels, even bioplastics.
That's right.
It sounds so much more efficient.
It can be.
And sustainable.
Definitely.
Than some of our current manufacturing methods.
You're hitting on some of the key advantages here.
Yeah.
Plants are renewable resources.
Right.
They can be grown and harvested sustainably. So that's a big win for the environment.
For sure.
Plus, plant farming has this potential to reduce those negative impacts that are associated with traditional manufacturing.
Totally. Like traditional manufacturing uses all these harsh chemicals, high energy consumption, so much waste.
Yeah, a lot of drawbacks.
So this is a lot cleaner?
It can be much cleaner.
And more in tune with nature.
For sure.
But let's bring this back to space exploration.
Okay.
Why is plant farming such a hot topic for those space missions?
Imagine you're an astronaut.
Okay.
On a multi-year mission to Mars.
All right.
You can't carry a limited supply of
Right.
every single medication and vaccine.
Yeah, there's just not enough room.
There's not enough room, and it's risky.
Yeah.
But what if you could grow what you need on demand?
Oh, wow.
Using plants as your pharmaceutical factory.
So it's about self-sufficiency.
Exactly.
Not having to rely on those resupply missions from Earth.
It's like packing a seed instead of an entire pharmacy.
I love that analogy. But is it really feasible?
Good question.
To do this type of complex biomanufacturing?
Yeah.
In that challenging environment of space?
It's not easy. But scientists are developing some innovative solutions.
Oh, like what?
They're working on these compact, self-contained bioreactors that provide a controlled environment for those plant cells to produce those compounds.
So we're talking about like miniaturized, high-tech greenhouses that are churning out medicine and other essentials.
Exactly.
That's so cool. We mentioned duckweed earlier.
We did.
Why is they considered like the top choice for plant farming in space?
Duckweed is an incredible little plant.
Yeah.
It grows so fast.
Okay.
It can double its biomass in just a day or two.
Wow, that's fast.
It's also really efficient in terms of space and resource requirements.
And it's easy to genetically modify.
And perhaps most importantly, it's highly amenable to genetic modification.
So it's like a blank canvas for scientists.
You got it.
To program and make it produce different compounds.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Are there any other plants that are being looked at?
Yeah, algae are another strong contender. They have a lot of similar benefits to duckweed. And believe it or not, even tobacco plants are being explored.
Tobacco plants?
Yes, they've been extensively studied.
Wow.
For their ability to produce those complex proteins.
I never would have thought of that. We've covered so much today.
We have.
From food deserts to space farming.
Oh, it's a lot.
To plant farming.
Yeah.
It's been a whirlwind of information. What's like the key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think what ties all of these threads together is that immense potential of plants.
Yeah.
To address these critical challenges facing humanity, both on Earth and as we venture out into space.
Totally.
Whether it's sustainable food production, protecting the environment, or even creating life-saving medicines.
Right.
Plants offer a toolbox of solutions just waiting to be explored.
It's not just about the plants themselves, though. It's about the human ingenuity that's driving these innovations.
Absolutely.
It's really inspiring to see how we're pushing those boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah. Using science and technology to create a better future.
I completely agree. And that's what makes these deep dives so rewarding.
Yeah.
It's not just about learning new facts. It's about sparking curiosity, igniting the imagination.
Totally.
There's always more to discover, more questions to ask.
Right.
And that's what drives progress.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive into vertical farming and this amazing world of plants.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. I have one final thought-provoking question for our listeners.
Okay.
Imagine you have the opportunity to design your own plant.
Ooh.
Specifically for space exploration or to tackle a challenge here on Earth.
Okay.
What special traits would it have?
That's a great question.
What would make it unique and capable of making a real difference?
The possibilities are truly endless.
They are.
And who knows what incredible discoveries and innovations lie ahead.
The future of plant science is brimming with potential.
It is.
And it's up to all of us to keep asking questions, keep exploring, keep pushing the boundaries.
And keep pushing those boundaries of what's possible. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank everyone.
And until next time, keep learning and keep growing.